I'm Mike, owner of the In-Groove in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I'm going to tell you guys about a collection that came into the shop, and this is one of the absolute coolest things I've ever been able to share on YouTube. You are not going to want to miss this. This wasn't the most expensive collection to ever come in, but this is one of the most historical, significant things that has ever happened to the In-Groove. So I was hanging out with fellow YouTuber Rob the Wax and international rock superstar Angelo Kelly. We had gone to a basketball game the night before. Angelo and Rob wanted to check out the store, and the morning of they came in, then the following morning they came in, and we were checking out records. We're doing a little buying, talking, showing them around. This is the sound room, this is the back room, you know, that kind of thing. Right as they were getting ready to leave, a collection came in. I didn't think much of it. Somebody had dropped some boxes off with one of my register employees, you know, that runs the front, and they were just there. So I said goodbye, bye Rob, bye Angelo. They left. All right, I got my bearings, got myself a water, got myself some gloves. These records were old and dusty, so I got myself a bench and I prepared to start digging. I start digging, I pop the lid open, and the first thing I think of is like, man, these records are terrible. This is like Grandma's, Reader's Digest, Lawrence Welk, Robert Goulet collection. That's what this looked like. It was just old, dusty, and dirty. So I'm like, all right, let's crack into it. Next thing I know, Angelo Kelly pops in. Now, he had been gone for about a half hour. They were getting ready to leave. You know, they had a long road trip ahead. I'm like, what's going on? I forgot my bag. I'm like, all right. And he's like, yeah, what's going on here? I'm like, God, this collection just came in. I just started going through it. He goes, anything good? I'm like, nah, it looks pretty. And then as I'm like half through my sentence, I dig into one of the boxes. There's a lot of 10 inches in there. And I'm like, oh my God, holy cow. The George Wallington Trio, Prestige 10-inch. This is rare. And a collection that has this in it, I mean, this is going to be good. I look on there and it says Fanny. And then I open I check out the record to see the condition. It's the wrong damn record. Like, oh man, now I gotta go through this whole collection and I gotta find the George Wallington Trio. Start looking around a little bit more. What? There's two of them. I look into this one. It was football. I look in it, the wrong disc was in there. They're all written on. I'm like, what is going on here? I look a little more. I start hearing the theme to the Twilight Zone playing in the background of my head. Django Reinhardt. I open it up. It's Django Reinhardt on dial. At this point, I'm like, 3? What the hell is going on here? So then I start going through the rest of the box, and I'm like, I'm finding all these prestige, great prestige 10 inches. Not one of these things has the correct disc inside. The discs that are inside of them are all terrible. They're all classical 10 inches. They didn't make sense. Well, then I dig in a little bit and I'm like, oh my God. And like right around this time, Rob came in because we're all like, Angelo had told Rob like, hey, you got to see this collection Mike's going through. And I started getting this crowd forming around me. The next thing you know, Thelonious Monk Trio. This is Monk's first record, 10-inch. Unbelievable. Look inside. Hit Parade, ? That's what was in it. So I'm just digging. I'm thinking to myself, at this point, I'm still thinking, you know what? The record's got to be in here. But the more I start digging, I'm like, I don't think these records are in here. Just the very fact that they all have what appears to be very old writing on them specifying what's in it. Zoot Sims. But on the cover, it says, Folk Songs of South America. And every one is the same thing. Look at this amazing Sonny Stint. Love at First Sight. And I'm just, oh my God, this is terrible. What happened here? Jerry Mulligan on the cover. Folk Tales of West Africa. So at this point, I'm thoroughly confused. I start digging, and I'm starting to notice a pattern here. I'm starting to notice that everything in these boxes have one common thread. It's nothing but United Artists Records, Vox Records, Folkways Records, and Prestige covers. Anybody know what all those, any jazz aficionados know what the common thread here? Well, the common thread is all those labels are very tightly associated with Plastite Records from New Jersey. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what's going, like, why did this person have all these jackets? Did they work there? Did they live next to it? Were they dumpster diving? Like, what the hell is going on here? The next thing I know, I'm digging through the LPs and I find this. Milt Jackson Quartet, Prestige LP 7003. This is a very early Prestige LP. And although this particular title is not worth a bunch of money, it is from the era of all the records that are worth a fortune. So I look and I go and I'm like, check it out. I'm like, John McCormick, written on the back. I'm like, damn it. Dig a little bit, dig another minute. I'm like, again. Oh my God. Al Jolson on this one. Like, oh my God. So far I've got nothing but covers and crappy records. Dig a little more. John Barrymore. At this point, I'm confused. I dig a little farther. Beethoven, Milt Jackson Quartet. So these are clearly covers that were being used for, unfortunately, crummier discs. But I'm like looking in these boxes and I'm just like thinking to myself, like, I start hearing the freaking Twilight Zone theme in the back of my head. Like, I have no idea what the hell's going on here. So far, I've got nothing but really good covers. But I'm thinking to myself, God, this has got to be, like, what's going on here? Now, the next thing I notice, I find an old mailing receipt with an address and a name on it from 1985. Where is that address located? In North Plains, New Jersey. A 3-minute car ride from the original Plastite plant. So it's like there's a tie in here. I don't know what it is, but there's a tie in here. Well, I dig a little more. Now I get to the last thing you typically look at is all the records without covers. So I thought to myself, oh, let's look through here. Now, again, the crowd is formed. I got people. We're all wondering what the hell's going on. The potential out of these boxes is mind-boggling. The next thing I know, I pull out this record in this cover. Blue Note BLP 4031. And what is it? It's a freaking first press mono Hank Mobley Soul Station. In pretty much unplayed condition. An unbelievable record. No cover. I look again. I see a big chunk of blue. I'm like, oh my God. Well, then this happened. I don't even know what to say. I'm digging. I find a sleeve. This sleeve reads Blue Note 4037. Horace Parlin's Us 3. Well, I get out the record from that sleeve. And I just say to myself, and maybe out loud, holy what the hell is this? I look, I see RVG, I see the Plastite. I'm like, this is a real deal. I mean, this is a yellow wax Horace Parlin Us 3. Now, you might just be saying, oh, that's kind of cool. Well, it's cool because nobody knew this existed. Until you folks here have been watching this, this is a non-existent Blue Note record in the sense it's on yellow vinyl. Nobody's ever seen it. Now, there have been a couple of Blue Note records that have made it out of Plastite on colored vinyl. There was a couple versions, a red and a green Jimmy Smith Midnight Special. We've seen those pop up in the past, but that's about it. These are kind of considered bootlegs in the sense that they weren't authorized by Blue Note, but it's using the original metal work, pressed on the original machine, pressed with the original stampers, labels, you name it. It's as original as you're going to get. The only difference is the operator running this machine at that point in time threw a yellow biscuit in and decided to make a yellow disc versus a black disc. But there it is. Unbelievable. Horace Parlan, Us 3 on yellow wax. At this point, it's like, who the hell knows what I'm going to find? The sky is the limit. I just keep digging. We're all just, I take a minute, I put that on the turntable. Now I'm playing Horace Parlan while we look for more records. I'm digging through bins. Boom. The Amazing Bud Powell, Volume 3. Again, no jacket. Babyface Wylette. Now this is an original. Now one thing I noticed with all these, if it came out at around 60, 61, it's an original first pressing mono cut. If it was a record from a little earlier in the era, it's a 60, 61. Everything was right around that time frame. Babyface Wylette, Face to Face. Beautiful. All of these played once. Freddie Red Quartet, The Connection. Sonny Rollins. This is the purple and yellowish cover that came out as a Music Matters title a few years ago. Also came out recently as a Blue Note Classic. But again, not a first pressing. This is like a 60-ish. Jimmy Smith, Plays Pretty For You. I just keep finding all these Blue Notes. And I mean, I'm having all these mixed reactions because I know that is like history, mind-boggling. I got myself a yellow wax, Horace Parlan, Us 3. But this other stuff, I'm thinking to myself, these are fantastic. At the very least, I can maybe upgrade to cleaner copies, switch out the discs. But a lot of these are, they're represses, but the story is just mind-boggling. So, another Jimmy Smith, Home Cooking. Then I get a run of, unfortunately, the titles you don't want to see. I start getting the New Orleans 1200 series. So, George Lewis, New Orleans Stompers, Blue Note 1208. Got a few more of those I'm not even going to bother to show you. But then I start pulling out more Thelonious Monk, Genius of Modern Music, Volume 2. And again, all of these were stored in the original sleeves with the category number written on them. Now, if it was a record, find another one. Horace Silver Quintet, Blue Note 1536. If it was a record that would have been inserted in a printed inner, like this one would have, because of the time it was reissued, it had the printed inner. If it didn't have a printed inner, it would have had the, an earlier record, it had the non-printed inner. Clifford Brown, Blue Note 1526. Thelonious Monk, Volume 1, Genius in Modern Music. Donald Byrd's Fuego. So I start digging a little more. I'm finding Folkways, United Artists. Again, everything is like Plastite. Digging. Unfortunately, it was mostly junk. Now, I do have a bunch of Folkways records that I'm going to auction off without the jacket, of course, in a future Whatnot auction. You can get a little part of this collection coming up soon. But for the most part, I got the Horace Parlan Us 3 and then a bunch of killer near minty discs. That Soul Station being the winner of that batch. But it was just mind-boggling. So I contact the owners of these records. I'm trying to put a deal together. First thing I ask is, hey, can you tell me about the records? Yeah, my grandmother, she just recently passed away. She lived to about 100. Worked at a pressing plant in New Jersey called Plastite, and she did that for a lot of years. She did QC. So she was given records. They were coming off the stand, the press, and she was the person who listened to them and seen if there was any defects. And then whatever she listened to, she could just take home. Or sometimes she would take these records home and listen to them. She had a nice turntable at the house, but that's where these came from. There was a few things we took out of it, some pop tunes we saw that we liked, but for the most part, what you see is what you can get, what you get. But I remember thinking to myself, this is super unfortunate. We don't know a ton about Plastite in this era. There's a few employees that have spoken about it. I would have loved to known that this woman was alive and I could have interviewed her. Just fantastic. I would have loved to know the inner workings of, when it comes to jazz, is the most legendary pressing plant of the most legendary jazz label of all time, and that's Blue Note Records. Although Prestige was pressing there in the 50s as well. But Prestige kind of moved relatively quick. Went to Abbey. But Plastite, all the original Blue Note era stuff from pretty much the beginning of the LP era all the way till they got sold to Liberty, we're pressing at Plastite. What she must have saw back in the day would have been so cool. Whether she would have remembered it or not, I have no idea. But what a cool story. What a cool experience being able to share that. I wish I had a camera to where I could have did it live on camera and I could have been pulling out all these records and showing them to you guys live. But what a cool experience. Like I said, not the most monetary, mind-boggling find of all time, but one of the coolest. To have the only known copy of an iconic record on an iconic label on colored wax, something that Blue Note never did. So cool. Piece I'll hold forever. Something I'll never sell. But yeah, check us out online, guys, at theiangroove.com. Until next time.